Hello and very welcome to the podcast. This is episode 21 and today we're going to focus on AI, specifically AI and education and where things seem to be going. There are many different directions we could take this topic and I'm sure I'll come back to it in future episodes, especially to talk about the benefits of AI in language learning and teaching. But today, I want to look at this topic from a slightly different angle. It seems as though AI is becoming inevitable in education, especially in second-level education, so secondary schools or high schools, and in third-level education, universities and colleges. So naturally, this raises questions about plagiarism, the assessment process, and the kinds of skills that students will need going forward. Traditionally, university has been about things like meeting deadlines, doing research, writing essays, and developing structured arguments. At least, I think that's what I took away from it. Anyway, these are all valuable skills, and I think they will continue to be. But it appears that AI is now capable of supporting or even replacing some of that groundwork, especially when it comes to structuring written work. So it seems as though the skills we value may need to change, or at least expand. Now, I want to connect this to another issue, which is the world of online content. There is so much information available now, more than ever, and it appears that a lot of this content is AI generated. And this brings us to the issue of misinformation, which is false or inaccurate information, and disinformation, which is false information that is intended to mislead someone. But fake news, of course, existed long before AI, but it seems as though the scale of the problem is increasing. We're exposed to so many opinions and everything feels quite polarized. People often react quickly, take sides, and it appears that we don't always stop to question what we're reading or what we're viewing. Personally, I don't believe everything I read anymore, okay? I don't think I ever did, but I really don't believe everything I read at this moment. In fact, I often find myself wondering what's behind the opinion being expressed, who wrote this, what is their agenda, where is this information coming from? And these are the same questions we should have always been asking, even more so now with AI-generated content. It's like, where did this come from? What are the sources? What are they referencing, etc.? And this connects nicely, okay? If our topic is AI, the language focus of today's episode is hedging language. So phrases like, it seems that, or it seems like, or it appears as if, or it seems as though. We use these phrases or these structures when we're not completely sure about something. And that's important, especially now. Instead of saying AI will change education, we might say it seems that AI is changing education, or it appears as though AI could have a significant impact on education. Okay, I'm not sure. Okay, I don't know 100%. So I'm going to use hedging language. And this is very important for my students that are doing IELTS or taking the IELTS exam, the International English Language Test. This kind of language is very important in the written section of that exam. But in general life, it's becoming more important because we just can't be sure anymore. Okay? Now, going back to education, I've been speaking to a lot of students about this topic recently, AI and education. I also watched a video, and I'll link it in the description, which discussed the decline in entry-level jobs across all sectors, really, partly due to AI taking over more routine or repetitive tasks. And this raises an interesting question. If AI is doing the more methodical work, what happens to the learning process? To the education process. One idea that came up in conversation with a student who is actually a lawyer was the idea of a generational gap. Like some more experienced professionals feel frustrated because they had to work very hard to develop certain skills, while younger professionals now have access to AI tools that can produce similar work very quickly. And it seems as though there is a risk there. If people rely too heavily on AI, they might not fully develop those fundamental skills. At the same time, it appears that universities are already starting to adapt. There might be a shift towards combining traditional academic subjects with more soft skills, things like communication, critical thinking, emotional intelligence, and even philosophy. For example, it seems possible that a degree like engineering might include more modules focused on human behavior or communication, a balance between technical knowledge and human skills. Personally, I think this could be a very positive development. When I started university, I was super shy. I was very shy. I struggled to express my ideas, and I definitely wasn't confident speaking in front of others. I wasn't very confident speaking to others in general. Okay. Over time, I improved, but I think I would have benefited so much from more structured support in developing those skills. So it seems to me that placing more emphasis on communication and interpersonal skills could be extremely valuable, especially in a world where so much interaction is happening through screens. It is really, it's all happening online. And this brings me to one of the most interesting ideas that came up in discussion with one of my students again. Instead of asking students to simply produce essays or reports, we spoke about reversing the process. So rather than writing from scratch or from zero, students could be given a completed text, possibly even AI generated, and their task would be to fact check it. They would need to examine the sources, verify whether those sources are reliable, are trustworthy, determine whether the information is accurate or misleading. And I think this is a really powerful idea, because it reflects a real world skill. Every day we are exposed to information on social media, in articles, in videos. And it seems as though the ability to question and verify that information is becoming more and more important, essential, fundamental, vital. In a way, we're moving from a world where the key skill was producing information to one where the most significant skill might be evaluating it. And this connects back to the issue of misinformation and disinformation. We're not only dealing with incorrect information that spreads unintentionally, but also information that is deliberately designed to influence or manipulate our opinions and our thoughts. So learning how to question sources, how to recognize bias, and how to verify claims, these seem to be essential skills for the future. Of course, this doesn't mean that traditional skills will disappear. Writing, analysis, research, these will still matter, they're still fundamental skills, but it appears that the context in which we use these skills is changing. And perhaps the real shift is this. It's not just about what we can produce anymore, it's about how well we can think, question, and evaluate what we see. Is the thing we're looking at real? And if we can't verify that, should we trust it? I don't know, is the answer. I simply don't know. But it seems like education will need to adapt, not just to technology, but to the way we interact with information itself. A little side note here about skills that maybe we had and we're starting to lose due to the advancement in technology. I forgot my phone number yesterday. My own phone number. I completely blanked, and it got me thinking about the fact that I used to remember everybody's number by heart. And now I have all the numbers in my phone and I don't remember any of them, by heart anymore. I can't just say the number on command. It doesn't happen to me. Does this mean that I've lost the skill of remembering numbers? Or does this mean I'm just out of practice? I don't really know. But I guess our brains develop and depend on any tools that we have available. So it's up to us to cultivate the skills that we think are beneficial and worthwhile having. That's it for today's episode, guys. Thanks for listening, and I hope you found it useful. I hope there was some interesting or new vocabulary in it for you. But please let us know your thoughts on the topic in the comments, and feel free to rate the show if you'd like. Have a great week. Ciao. Ciao.